What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nerd Enthusiast Wrestling Podcast. I am Christy Francesco. Joining me, as always, is Kyle Barone. What's going on, dude?
Not much. How you doing?
Doing good, man. All right, so the very first of quite a few WrestleMania shows we're going to be doing now. It's March now, and which means literally between the near the third week of March or the first week of April for the last 36 years has been WrestleMania. Some manias are like mid-March to late March. But this one happened in April, and quite a few have happened in April. It's just weird how the schedule works out sometimes with WWE. I don't know how they pick where manias go, but I know this is going to be a late mania this year because Fastlane is March 21st. So obviously a completely meaningless pay-per-view unless they're trying to swerve something for the sake of swerving. But before we get into WrestleMania 5, just want to remind people, because everyone on the internet seems to be confused and freaking out what's going on. Fastlane will be the final pay-per-view that you can watch on the WWE Network. If you have Peacock, you will also be able to watch Fastlane. However, once WrestleMania arrives, the WWE Network, as you all know it, as we all know it, is non-existent. You can only watch WrestleMania and everything thereafter on Peacock, and that's it. So I think they're running a special now. Please do not quote me on this, but I've seen a couple ads for it, that if you sign up for Peacock now, I believe it's $2.99 a month.
If you get Peacock Premium, whatever the fuck that is, it's $2.50, I think.
Okay, it's and you get Fastlane and Mania.
Yeah, and the WWE Network's included in that. So
okay,
if you're bitching about having to, which I was too, I'm like, hey, you fucking Peacock. First, I was going to get it because of The Office. I love that.
Yeah,
shit.
I got it.
But yeah, apparently it comes with Comcast or Xfinity, whatever the fuck we have, it comes with it.
Oh, good for you.
But the premium is $2.50, so you're getting $7.50 off the WWE Network. So you got to sign up for something, but you're saving a little bit of money
for sure. And just to let you guys know, again, Fastlane is basically your saluting off the WWE Network. That's going to be it. So Mania will be exclusive to Peacock, and I guess there's still such thing as pay-per-view. So I guess people can purchase WrestleMania, I assume, still on pay-per-view. So yeah, and then that'll be it. And if anything you guys want on WWE, it's going to be on Peacock. Couple bad things if you're network junkies like Barone and I do, from what I read, any video that you watch on Peacock, there won't be timestamps. You won't be able to go from match to match. You basically,
a lot of stuff's cut.
A lot of stuff is cut.
Like a ton of stuff isn't going to be available for a little bit.
Are you trying to tell me that the Katie Vick segment will not be on Peacock?
YouTube only, brother.
So then, yeah, you're going to have to basically just fast forward and hope you know where things are. So go on, use Wikipedia to if you guys want to know where certain things happen in pay-per-views or TV shows, because you're not going to get the I mean, I really don't know the word for it, but you're not going to have the capabilities that you have on WWE Network to skip, to go to a certain match, to go to a certain segment. You're going to just have to hope for the best and use fast forward the best you can. But yes, Fastlane March 21st will be the final time that we had the WWE Network. So it's going to go to Peacock, and you're saving money, and you get The Office. You get a lot of other shit too. I will say, my wife and I are pretty big fans. For those who like Saturday Night Live, you can get every single episode of Saturday Night Live in the past 40 years, all of them, every single one. So that's a lot of fun watching that too, just going back and seeing that stuff.
And if you don't like The Office, you can straight go fuck yourself.
Yeah, just don't even watch the show ever again. I'm just kidding. Please download the show and watch it and listen to it. All right, so I'm very excited for this, but so again, and this is us accommodating people that are commenting on our 2004 Royal Rumble episode. I believe the guy's name is Austin. I'm sorry if you're not a guy. If you are a girl, we don't know these days. It's 2021. Austin could be a girl for all I know. But
And it's just a name.
it's just a name,
All
right?
the things I
Yes.
didn't see the picture.
Yeah, exactly. So Austin asked us to kind of give our opinion on AEW Revolution and that massively botched finish. So again, like you heard us talk about the end of the 2015 Rumble episode, Barone and I don't like touching on current topics because one, so many people talk about it these days and it's so polarizing that I really don't have time to argue with people over our opinions on the current product because a lot of people probably look at me as completely WWE biased, but that's not the way it is. I like good quality wrestling and I don't like being bullshitted. So that's probably why we don't talk a lot about AEW and WWE. However, the biggest story in pro wrestling right now is the atomic bomb or lack thereof that AEW had at the end of their big pay-per-view this past weekend called Revolution. John Moxley was defeated by Kenny Omega in a exploding
barbed
wire death match. So yeah, I mean, the end saw was supposed to see. I guess in Japan they did this where there's a time limit before the entire arena blows up and everyone dies.
Yeah, it's a 30-minute time limit, and if you're not out of the ring before the 30 minutes is up, the whole ring explodes. Now, if you watch what they do in Japan, they do a great job of blowing the ring up, and it looks like way better than that fucking turd they dropped on TV. But we were talking about this before we started recording. I understand you can't have a legit death match. I've been to a CZW show. I've seen death matches. No. You can't do it on TV. They're way too brutal. There's way too many weapons involved. When I went, when you drive up, they had guys there with signs that said, drop your weapons off here. You can bring homemade shit to these and give it to them, and they use it in the ring. Yeah, if you've never seen a CZW show, go on YouTube and watch their highlights. That's a death match. You can't do that on TV, so they shouldn't even build it.
You should promote it, as a death match.
As a death match because you can't do that.
Yeah.
The exploding barbed wire was glorified poppers. It didn't look that great when they hit.
It did not. The timing was way off.
It was just like a pop and some smoke. Which again, if you watch the stuff in Japan, they do it big.
Yeah, they basically blow each other's limbs off.
Yeah.
So
the ending of it was just as anticlimactic as you can get.
Yeah, and I talked about this match on Twitter a little bit. If you guys want to find me on Twitter at ChrisDFriend86. I basically talked about what AEW has fallen into. A problem with Moxley is the guy, and this basically piggybacks off of what Barone said, is Moxley is a graduate of CZW. Mm-hmm. So he's a kind of guy that just, you give him a switchblade, my man's going to cut himself all day in a match. He would become Ric Flair if it was up to him, where he would walk down the aisle in blade if you really asked him to.
There's a clip, and I know you've seen it because I show it to everybody.
Absolutely disgusting.
He legit takes a sawzall to his head. Like the guy holds him, and you see him turn a sawzall on to Moxley's head.
How does he survive?
That's what they do in CZW. See, he likes that shit. He's into it. Whatever. Foley was into it too. But it's a different time, different place. You can't have these brutal, blood fests like you used to be able to. And Moxley wasn't even bleeding that much.
Right. No. But the problem I have with the match, and this kind of just is in a grand scheme of it, is my issue is Kenny Omega. Barone and I have seen his 5-star matches in Japan. We've seen Kenny Omega just be probably arguably the best wrestler on the planet. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why Tony Khan and AEW continues to acquiesce to a guy like Ambrose's desire to just maim himself. And you're basically putting the number one worker in the world in a match with him to do it. Mm-hmm. I don't care what they say on promos where, Omega was talking to ESPN, not ESPN, somebody saying how, this just shows the kind of range that I have as a champion. All right, you're towing the company line. Obviously, if you're Kenny Omega, this isn't the kind of match that you want to be doing. I'm sure you would love to have, a 5-star classic with Hangman Page or somebody like that to really showcase your skills.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of, I'm over Moxley. I was over Ambrose near the end when he was in WWE.
He was phoning it in.
He really was. And I really think he phones it in AEW because he really honestly just looks like he goes through the motions. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame that Omega was wrapped up into everything that Moxley wants. And I'm happy Omega went over, but still it was not a good look on AEW at all. It just looks like it was a desperate attempt at popping maybe like I don't want to say a rating, but popping discussion amongst the wrestling, like, oh, look, this is what WWE can't and they won't do, so this is something that we will do, and we have performers that are willing to do it.
Yeah.
Well, it ended up being one of the worst things that we have seen on wrestling television in a long time.
It's being talked about for all the wrong reasons.
Correct.
And if you see the clips online afterwards, Moxley actually buries it, which is great too. He's like, what was that shit?
Exactly.
Like, I've seen bigger explosions on ridiculousness. What the fuck? And poor Eddie Kingston, he sold that.
He was like knocked out
for like 20 minutes. Even afterwards when it goes off air and Moxley's like burying the explosion, he's still sitting there getting worked on by doctors.
Yep.
I give him credit for trying.
For sure.
But afterwards he should have even been like, what the
yeah. Overall, I thought AEW Revolution was not a great show. I watched it from start to finish. I didn't pay for it. I streamed it illegally. Sorry, but that's what I'll do for
you, son of a.
I know. That's what if it's not $9.99 or $4.99 on Peacock, I ain't buying it. So what I basically look at is, and I know people get so bent out of shape when I say this. It's an indie promotion that just so happens to have a television contract.
They have a lot of money.
If that's really all it is.
And they got names,
Right.
And we've seen them put on good matches.
For sure. Absolutely.
Dude, Omega can work. Hangman Page can work his ass off. We've seen the tag team division do great things.
Mm-hmm.
And then they highlight garbage like this. You know, it's
Hangman Page is a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people don't like it to hear this, but if he was with the Machine, I think that man would be massive because guys like AJ would want to work with him. Reigns would love to work with him. He's got so much charisma.
I said this before to you. I could watch him and Paco all day.
All day. I agree.
So good together. Mm-hmm. He's another one who was so good, and fucking Enzo made him quit WWE. But he's kind of pigeonholed in the if he was 6'4" category.
Correct.
Because he's great at what he does. But he's just so small. But when you watch him go with a guy like Hangman Page, those matches are off the charts.
They really are. I agree. And the surprise that's obviously has taken over the internet. Christian Cage was the surprise signing.
And nothing against Christian.
I love Christian. Yeah.
But it was, and he should be in the Hall of Fame. He will be in the Hall of Fame. I said to him, anything outside of Punk or Brock isn't going to move the needle.
I agree. And that actually showed.
He's just going to be another guy. There was rumors of Bubba Dudley,
Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle did a great troll job.
He did a great troll.
So
I was like, oh, it's him.
Yeah.
Which didn't interest me at all. And I love Kurt Angle. But there was also like Lita they were talking about.
Jeez.
Maybe would show some interest if she could still go. But AJ, if they could get Punk and AJ, they could actually turn the corner.
Right.
Because she can go with all the girls. He can go with all the guys.
Yep.
But yeah, and like I said, anything outside of Brock and Punk's not going to move the needle. And Christian's not going to move the needle either.
And he didn't.
And and I don't have any interest in seeing him or Angle or Bubba Dudley wrestle, because it's like how AEW said we're going to build new talent, and you're putting we know fucking Edge is doing it. Shut up.
Yeah, we get
They're
it.
putting a 48-year-old. WWE's not telling you they're building new talent.
Correct.
So.
They're putting him in the main event against their top talent.
Yeah.
But they're not telling you he's here to build young stars. We get it. That's what WWE, they will never tell you that. You know what they're doing when they're doing it. Brock is here to dominate.
Yeah.
Who cares who he's going up against? It's just, what's going on. And again, like Barone said, it's not going to move the needle, and there's proof of that. And I'll say it again, and I've said this 100 times now on all these pages that we follow on social media, and no one has yet to give me an answer, which means, and I love saying this, I'm right, that there's not that much interest in AEW outside of that one strict diehard fan base. They signed Christian Cage. He comes out, and that's the signing. Last week on Dynamite, they had 946,000 viewers, right? Huge.
Still, Big Show moved the needle.
Big Show moved the needle.
And I said to you, the greatest fucking heel turn troll job Big Show would have did is say, this Hall of Fame talent is coming out to sign his contract. If he would have came out on Revolution and officially signed his contract, it'd have been great.
That would have been
like, you
really
motherfucker, good. You got us. You got, and because he's not in the Hall of Fame, and he's Hall of Fame talent.
Right.
And if he'd have officially signed, it would have been great.
I agree. And this past week on Dynamite, their ratings lost almost 200,000 viewers. And that was billed as, you're going to see Sting talk. Christian is going to appear, which he did, and it looks like he's already going to be going after the title against Omega. So it's, to be honest with you guys, again, Barone's right from the start when he found out, not going to move the needle. Instead, they lost nearly 200,000 viewers. Again, I'm going to ask the question, how does this keep happening? Over 1.4 million people tuned into the very first Dynamite. They have not broken million since. They had 946,000 viewers last week. This past week, 752. That's almost 200,000 people decided after a huge pay-per-view, I'm not going to watch Dynamite. That's a problem. No one will give me a straight answer. And that goes to you, John Nemeth.
And I do like that NXT is now moving to Tuesday, right?
Correct. They have to. For all you smart idiot marks out there who think that they've lost a war.
There was no fucking war.
Yeah. It's good that your main brand is making the C brand move to Tuesdays.
Third level. So I think we said this from the door. I don't know why they're both doing it the same day anyway, because it benefits both shows. If you look at the ratings, Raw gets 2 million, SmackDown gets 2.1, whatever, around the same. And NXT and AEW are almost splitting that.
Yeah.
A little less than splitting it. So you get your diehards that are watching, that are choosing between these two shows. Why not move and get, if AEW or NXT does 1.4 and then AEW does 1.4 the next day, it benefits everybody.
Correct.
It's better ratings. You can, it's more money because more people are seeing it, more ad revenue, all that stuff. So you get your diehard wrestling fans that watch everything that's on TV.
Right.
If TNA was more available, more people would probably watch it.
Yeah.
But it's on like channel 906 or whatever the fuck it is. I can't find it. And I'd watch it. I don't even think I get it. But like there's diehard wrestling fans that watch any wrestling on
Of course.
TV. So move them. Let everyone be happy. Let AEW say they won the ratings war on Twitter. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
It's just
let them
move on and
let WWE continue to have that wonderful free rent in their heads.
And like you said, it's AEW's beating the C show when all
Barely.
They have to do is advertise for a week that Roman's going to face Bobby Lashley on NXT. Sorry, AEW, your ratings are going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
They're all they have, and Cody Rhodes said that too. Remember, he said he was like, I thought NXT was going to have Undertaker on the show every week, just because they can. You know what I mean? And people are tuning in to view that.
Yeah.
If they wanted to back that truckload of money up to Stone Cold's house and he replaces William Regal, people are going to watch Austin on NXT.
100% agree with you. If Shawn Michaels and Triple H appear on NXT every week, they're going to come closer when the ratings war every week.
Yeah.
But NXT is doing exactly what they say you're going to do, and that is they're building the next generation of stars. And that's why you have guys like Adam Cole and Finn Balor there leading the train, because it's also building guys like Karrion Kross now. So you're using guys that might get lost in the shuffle on the main roster, which they will because of their size. That's just the way. It's just the way it is. It's the nature of the beast. But they're down having 5-star matches in NXT.
The best wrestling on TV is NXT.
I agree.
Hands down, every week. They beat SmackDown. They beat Raw. The in-ring stuff that they're doing is phenomenal.
It's so good. And their women's, oh my God, their women's division is incredible. I know Barone's not a huge fan, and I mean, I'm the same way, but the women down there just put on bangers a lot. Yeah. And I mean, I know Ripley now is moving up, which is going to be tough for NXT, but Ripley's a machine, so she belongs up there.
And she's like 23.
I know.
She's so young.
God, she terrifies me, but she's so hot. All right, so now let's get into why we're here. We are here to talk about WrestleMania 5, which occurred April 2nd, 1989. I was turning 3 years old that November, by the way.
I just turned 5 in November.
Wow.
So I was turning 6 the following year.
So this was in Atlantic City, New Jersey. I believe this was the second consecutive event that was held at Trump Plaza in Atlantic City. It's the only time that's ever happened and likely will never happen again. Probably. Well, I mean, it technically just happened, but it's not.
But that was because of COVID.
Right.
And it didn't even because they did it at the performance.
Right. So it's technically still the first time in Tampa. The friendship of world champion Randy Savage and challenger Hulk Hogan disintegrated after a year of being the most dominant force in pro wrestling, which was the Mega Powers. Savage was jealous of how close Hogan was getting to Elizabeth, so Randy completely turned heel on him. It was a huge deal at the time and set the stage for this epic main event at the 5th anniversary of WrestleMania. The World Wrestling Federation. What the world is watching.
What the world is watching.
That was the tagline. I can
vividly remember that as a kid hearing that. What the world is watching.
It's amazing that you remember. That's so cool. I love that stuff. That was hence why we're on a company called Nerd Enthusiast.
We're fucking dorks.
That was the tagline that you were using in those days. And then Vince McMahon, did his awesome little voiceover, like only he can do, by saying the Mega Powers have exploded while this, you look at it as cheesy
like
now.
He's having a heart attack and taking a shit at the same time. And what's great too is now, like as an adult, you hear like, wait, that's the owner of the company. As a kid, I'm hearing them like,
yeah,
the Mega Powers doing all
exactly
this goofy shit. And it's like,
and like these stars, like they're showing stars, and then you see like this just weird tie-dye background of the Mega Powers colors, and then you see like this explosion come from the television.
Like
and you're like, wow, it's not good.
Like, you can do better graphics on your phone these days. It
was
really
so
true. Cool as a kid.
Oh, of course. Graphics have sure come a long way. This event, like we said, took place Trump Plaza, Atlantic City, which of course is owned by Donald Trump, former United States president.
I'm pretty sure this is the pay-per-view where when Ted DiBiase walks out, he walks over to Trump and shakes his hand in the face.
Yes.
And Jesse the Body puts it over like, oh, he's talking to one of his millionaire friends, which is pretty cool to see, like the $1 million man shake hands with a millionaire.
Right. So good.
Great storytelling.
Oh, for sure. And, we are welcomed to the show by announcer Gorilla Monsoon, who busts out, and only he can say, you can cut the tension with a knife. The announcers of this event are Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura. Probably one of the greatest pairings of all time.
To me, they're number 2.
I agree
Ross
with
and
you.
JR are just leagues ahead of everything.
I agree.
But this is like the two voices of them and Harry Cowles, like the voices of my
agree.
You know what I mean?
I'm right there with you.
Like growing up, I heard, "Will you stop?" and
yes,
shut up, Gorilla. Every week I heard, every time they were on, you hear that.
Oh, that's just good stuff.
They played so good off each other. Heenan and Gorilla were great.
Oh, they were classic. All right, so what we're going to do, like we do with most pay-per-views now, is that we kind of go over the noteworthy moments. Again, this is a 31-year-old, 32-year-old pay-per-view. So, I think I probably watched it because I do remember the Shawn Michaels match, but like I just don't recall it as well as Barone does. But
like I said, I had this on tape and I watched it all the time.
And so
I
let's
had
just.
this and Survivor Series from '89 on
I remember
VHS,
Survivor Series of
and I
'89. Holy
watched those
cow!
religiously as a kid. It's the
Well,
only wrestling I had.
and then so let's just kind of start a little bit here. You had a great match that kicked off the pay-per-view, which was the Brainbusters, Arn Anderson and Tully versus Strike Force, which was Tito Santana and Rick Martel. Obviously Arn and Tully were known from their NWA WCW career as being part of the Four Horsemen. The Brainbusters won this match. They only got about 9 minutes and 15 seconds. What was your
Was this when Strikeforce broke up?
yes.
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because Martel bailed on Tito, I
bailed
think, at
on
that
Tito,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I really don't remember much of Strikeforce before this. But I do remember this, that Martel bailed on Tito, and then they had their thing, and Rick Martel went on to do a phenomenal the model gimmick with his
Yeah.
arrogance, which was great. But I'll have to go back and watch this again. I haven't watched this in forever, but I'm sure the match was great with those four in it. All of them could work.
Yeah.
But the match was there to set up the breakup and that storyline.
Absolutely agree. But yeah, I remember watching Brainbusters. They had a couple matches with the Rockers. And boy, it was like class was in session. And if you guys ever read Shawn Michaels' first book he wrote, which was called Heartbreak and Triumph, that came out around 2006. I've read that book at least 12 times. He talks a lot about the Brainbusters, how much Tully. Well, one, Tully was Shawn Michaels' favorite wrestler growing up. So, and Tully, take away all of the demons that he had. If you guys watch Tully, you could definitely watch him on the network for now. Of all the NWA, AWA, the guy could flat out work. Yeah. Tully was good. And then obviously Arn is Arn. Arn's been 40 for about 35 years. So those two as a team were just so in sync. And obviously that like we said in the beginning, it comes from their days being together every single day as part of the Four Horsemen. I was a big Brainbusters fan. That's why I also like the Revival so much. It sucks that they're in AEW because they're also not being used to their top talents as much as
they're
everyone.
So good.
They're just incredible.
Yeah, they're such ring technicians like these guys were.
Yep.
So when I was a kid, I didn't like the Brainbusters because, again,
well, you like baby faces.
Well, but then I looked at them. I'm like, these little guys. Like, Tully Blanchard's not a big dude. Arn Anderson's kind of big, but when he gets in there and it's like demolitions across from him, it's like those guys are monsters.
I know.
As a kid, you're like, they'll kill them.
Mm-hmm.
But now that's what and I say this all the time. The best part of the network is going back and you can appreciate the stuff you didn't look at as a kid.
Right.
Like, as a kid, everyone's I like the good guy, but I can go back and watch DiBiase or like Rick Rude's on right now.
Yeah. Making Warrior look decent.
Mm-hmm. And you can appreciate, because as a kid, you're like, fuck him. Yeah.
Right.
Like
exactly.
Warrior should win. But you watch these guys work and how good they were. And the Brainbusters were that team.
Agreed.
And then when you get them in there with guys like the Rockers and the Hart Foundation, it's a clinic.
Exactly. I agree. Like I said, I give this match about, about 3 star. I mean, 2.25 star, maybe almost 3, because the match, obviously the match didn't suck, but it wasn't a pure tag match. Like we said, because Martel bailed on Tito. And I was a fan of I am a fan of the Brainbusters, but it's a shame they didn't last that long in WWE, but Tully Blanchard doing Tully Blanchard things.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
I heard his daughter's got a couple problems though.
Yeah. I mean, Tessa's like 23 and she's incredible, but from all reports is that she's not the best person.
A little racist.
Just a little bit.
I don't know. It's all, rumor and innuendo, but that's what I heard.
Right. So let's just go to another thing that happened at this pay-per-view. There was a pretty famous Piper's Pit. And at this time, Piper was kind of in and out of WWE or WWF at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But, the ring was set up for Piper's Pit for Roddy. His music played to a huge ovation. But instead, it was Brother Love, a.k.a. Bruce Pritchard, wearing a kilt. Love does an over-the-top Piper impression because, he was there to interview Roddy. And as this was going on, the crowd starts making some noise, hoping Piper would be there. Instead, there was a guest, Morton Downey Jr., makes his way out. Morton Downey at the time was a super popular television host.
I had no
I had
fucking
no
clue
idea
this
who
dude
he
was
was.
when I was a kid.
I know.
None whatsoever.
No. He makes his way out. Love tells him that he absolutely loves Downey. Morton says, anybody that wears a skirt is not somebody he wants to love him. Can't say that today. Finally, Piper comes out to try to attempt to save this train wreck. Ventura called them 3 legitimate windbags.
Like we said, he is so good.
He really is. And that they were ready to get it on in there. Piper wonders if Love was the one that was supposed to take his show. Then he makes a fat joke. Love says Piper can't scare him, so Roddy yells at him, and Love jumps, proving he is scared. He continues to trash talk him and then rips off his kilt. Brother Love bails. Piper goes over to Downey, who likes to smoke cigarettes. He was a heel. Piper was a babyface. They talk trash to each other for a few minutes. Downey turns around, had a smoke, and Piper eventually uses a fire extinguisher to knock him down. And that's because a couple times he was blowing smoke
right
in Piper's face, and Piper would say, "Don't blow smoke in my face."
In my face.
And he goes,
the only way Piper can.
Right. It's just a great voice.
I can remember watching Downey turn around, go, and like voice to the crowd, go like, "I'm gonna blow this right in his face," and that's when he turns around and gets hit with the fire extinguisher.
Oh, I love it. So that was a 20-minute segment.
Way
too long. Eric Bischoff always said, coming from Eric Bischoff, who, would run 25-minute NWO segments, always used to say, like, if it's beyond 7 minutes, it's too long. Well, that's probably why WCW no longer exists. It was a really long segment. Brother Love never gets the amount of due that he gets. He was a good showman. I enjoyed Pritchard.
And if he wasn't a backstage guy and was a full-time manager, he'd already be in the Hall of Fame. He'd be up there with like Jimmy Hart and not as good as Bobby Heenan, but he would have been another legendary heel manager because I could see him having a stable of guys. But he was so involved backstage, he didn't have the time to do it. But which gives credit to him where he's doing all this stuff backstage, could throw all this shit on and then go produce memorable TV on air.
Agreed. Oh, absolutely. I agree. So following this ridiculously long Piper's Pit, they aired a commercial for the Hulk Hogan Spectacular No Holds Barred. It was awful.
Which we will do a show on one day.
Oh, absolutely.
I love that movie.
Well, I know Nerd Enthusiast Matt wants us to do like a watch along live of No Holds Barred. I'm totally down for that.
Garbage from start to finish. But it's the garbage of my childhood.
It really, you're so right. In the crowd, Sean Mooney interviews Donald Trump, who says it's unbelievable to have WrestleMania here. He said unbelievable a couple times, and if we fast forward 30 years, not much has changed. His hair isn't as bad.
Huge.
As it would later obviously become. But yeah, it was good to see Trump, who, if you've listened to Bruce Pritchard's podcast, has said many times that he would, bend over backwards to help promote WWF programming. Yeah. So that's
apparently,
cool to know.
Like Bruce said, he was a real cool guy to do business with because Trump loves ratings. And WWE does massive ratings, especially when he was not in this time, but later on with the Stone Cold stuff.
Right.
So if Trump could get his face on TV with a good rating behind it, he loved it. And Pritchard said every time he talked to him, he couldn't have been nicer because he was just like, he was excited to be there and do something that would produce a good rating. Not getting politics
of course,
and all this, but everyone has their own opinions of him. But Bruce said he couldn't have been nicer back when they would deal with him.
He was always willing to do something. Like whatever they asked, he would help. It was
a god awful stunner, but he took it.
The fact that he took it, good for him. At the announcers table, Jesse cuts a promo on Hulk Hogan because he's doing a movie, and that Hollywood is Jesse's home. So they aired clips highlighting, the good days and the bad days of the Hulk Hogan Randy Savage relationship over the course of the year between WrestleMania 4 and this one and 5. The big angle was from the main event in February when Savage went crashing into Elizabeth and Hulk ended up carrying her, to the back. Later on, with Elizabeth knocked out or getting looked at by doctors, Savage attacked Hogan. That set up the title match that we have here. In the interview area, Mean Gene interviews Hogan. He cuts a 4-minute promo summarizing everything that went down with Randy Savage over the past year. It's another one of these promos about how the world is just going to collapse just like the year before. He said by the end of the night, he'd be the WWF champ once again. And what you gonna do, Macho Man? Just another one of those just classic Hulk Hogan promos. This is like peak Hulk Hogan 1989.
It is.
This
is like Hogan was great from 85 to 88. Then he dropped the title to do movies or whatever. But this was like Hogan at his best, on top, firing on all cylinders, for lack of a better term.
That's a great term. It's perfect. The next match we have here that we'll highlight is the Hart Foundation. Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart versus Honky Tonk Man and Greg Valentine with Jimmy Hart. Obviously, the winners of this match.
In fact, this is when DDP makes his WrestleMania debut.
Driving
that's his car. That pink Cadillac is his car. He told that story on Austin's podcast about how this was in Atlantic City, but he was in Atlanta, and he drove the car up.
Oh my god!
I'm pretty sure it was this WrestleMania when they come out in that pink Cadillac. But yeah, that's Diamond Dallas Page driving it. He's like, they didn't want me; they wanted the car, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I give this match about 2.5 stars. It was a really good tag match. If you guys go back and watch it, it was carried completely by Bret Hart. I hate the guy, but he's just absolutely incredible. He carried the whole match. He carried everyone. Look, if you have a tag team that consists of Honky Tonk Man and Greg the Hammer Valentine, you're definitely going to need a worker in that match.
And Valentine was good, but he was past his prime.
He was, yeah.
And he said he hated the rhythm and blues gimmick.
Really?
Hated it, yeah.
Oh,
if you ever watch when they're in the, and it could have been great too, because Honky Tonk was so over the top.
Yes.
But when they're playing the guitars and like doing their thing, he's just standing there like, could give a fuck less about what's going on. He said he didn't want to dye his hair. He just didn't like it at all.
No, sorry, Greg, but I'm sure it was one of your biggest payoffs you ever had. Right? So you better love rhythm and blues. The next match is Rick Rude versus the Ultimate Warrior. We have a title change here. The new Intercontinental Champ is the ravishing Rick Rude. I thought it was pretty good. It was better than I remember it being. Warrior's offense was, your basic stuff, but Rude, man, did just a great job selling and also fighting back when he had a chance to go on the offense. The ending meant that there would be rematches, and there would, because they would have a long feud after this.
Yeah. There's a spot in this match where Rick Rude drop kicks Warrior in the face off the top rope.
Sheesh.
And Warrior no sells it. Like, he goes down, but he gets back up way too quick off of a crazy. If you get a chance, go back and watch this match because it is pretty good. But yeah, Rude kicks him dead in the fucking face off the top, like drop kick in the face. And Jesse sells it like, whoa. And Warrior pops right back.
Jeez.
Yeah, this is the first time Ultimate Warrior loses. And it's when Bobby Heenan holds his legs down.
Yep.
Outside. And I remember Jesse being like, they outsmarted him. And then Warrior chasing Heenan all around. But
well, after the match, Warrior went after Heenan while Rude left. Warrior gave him a gorilla press slam, much to the delight of the capacity crowd.
Which is great. Rude's like, thanks. I'm fucking out.
I'm out of here.
Takes his title and rolls.
So yeah, that was a pretty good match in terms of, you got to see Warrior, who at this time was
unstoppable.
I mean, unstoppable too. A year from now, he was going to be beating. He was the man. He was getting the torch.
I texted you the other day. I saw something. Ultimate Warrior in his career lost 3 times.
I couldn't believe that was true.
And none of them were clean. Here, to Rude, where Heenan holds his legs down, the match at the Royal Rumble where Savage drops a fucking grand slam with that scepter, one of the hardest shots you'll ever see. He swings for the fences, hits him, slaughter pins him. And then in WCW with the Hulk Hogan in the greatest match ever, who was it? Horace Hogan or whatever the fuck.
Correct.
Yeah, he interfered. So Warriors lost 3 times and none of them were clean.
That's incredible.
Which is nuts.
Man, how do you get that creative?
Strong booking, right?
Right. All right, so let's get to the reason again why we are here. This is the World Heavyweight Championship match. Macho Man Randy Savage comes in versus Hollywood versus Hulk Hogan, the immortal Hulk Hogan. I think this was when he started being referred to as the immortal Hulk Hogan. But yeah, the Macho Man comes in as the Le Champion.
He comes out first too, and I remember Jesse acknowledging it, and he said, "Why is the champion coming out first?" or something like that, or Hogan's ego wouldn't let him go out. I forget, but I remember seeing it and thinking it was weird because the champion always comes out second.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Hogan comes out second, which is it was kind of weird.
No, I mean it was one. If you guys go back and watch the match, the way that the Trump Plaza entrance was weird because there were steps, and I never liked that because Hulk can't do his normal entrance because now you got to make sure the dude doesn't fall down steps. But still, it was a long entrance, and I am a sucker for the Real American theme. We're watching one of these Saturday Night main events, and Hulk Hogan's coming out in really tight black spandex pants.
He dressed like a fucking dickhead back in the day. And apparently, Bruce talks about that's how he dressed all the time.
Ugh.
Like he wore tight cutoff shirts and tight like spandex pants, cowboy boots, and sneakers, and a fanny pack all the time.
I mean, it was a pillar for fashion,
right?
God, man,
wrestlers have got to be the worst.
Shawn Michaels, the worst.
Dude, how many times have I sent you pictures like, what in the fuck is he wearing? Like cowboy boots with overalls and shit like that.
I remember this one. I gotta send it to you. He's wearing. This is Shawn Michaels. He's wearing a one-piece like overalls, denim overalls, with no shirt. So he's like Hillbilly Jim, except not Hillbilly Jim, and he's got a red bandana backwards. And he's got cowboy boots with the denim tucked in. So I go, my man, how did he get sunny? My man has to have a thermos because I can't believe he walked around in public in that outfit. And then you have this man here who's like 6'4", 330 or 300 pounds wearing black tight spandex.
With a fanny pack.
Yeah.
Well, right now he has the weight belt on.
He does. At least he has the weight belt on.
He's not lifting, but
he's not lifting.
Great stuff.
I love this.
We digress.
I know we digress, but it's still great when this stuff pops up in front of me. So we have, obviously this was a turning point because we know at this point Warrior is gaining such huge steam as being that baby face like next guy. And the only way to, at this point, back then, the golden goose is Hulk Hogan. And if you're gonna get another baby face over, Hulk Hogan has to be the guy to do that. So it only makes sense. Now, guys, you got to remember, this is 1989. There's no Raw. There's no SmackDown. They every weekend have like superstars or something like that. And once a month.
Saturday main events was like once a month.
Once a month. So really, WWE or WWF back then, once WrestleMania 5 occurred, they already had WrestleMania 6 basically planned in their heads because they had to book WrestleMania like a year out because you don't have weekly episodic television to build storyline. So once WrestleMania 5 happens on the road, probably at that point, they're already like preparing the Warrior to build him to get to Hogan, or Hogan might be wrestling guys that's not Macho Man Randy Savage. So that's how things worked in back in like 1989 up until Raw 93, where on the road in the live events, that's why they worked 320 days a year at that point, because that's where WWF was able to gauge who's getting over and who's not.
Mm-hmm.
So WrestleMania 5, you kind of knew the title was going to go back on Hulk, because you look back now and you see the steam of the Ultimate Warrior.
And Savage has held it for a year.
Right. And back then, it's a babyface factory.
Mm-hmm.
Heels don't hold titles.
He was a babyface for a while, but now he's a heel.
Correct.
So it's you see what's coming,
Right. So the after just about 18 minutes, Hulk hulked up at the end. The drill. Savage throws some punches. Hogan feels the energy from the crowd, throws punches of his own, gets the whip in, boot to the face, boom, big leg drop, new champion. But, it was a very good match, and it had that just incredible epic feel to it. It really did. Like, that match, man, is the definition of a main event.
It is.
Like, a year-long buildup that they did perfectly to a T. That storyline was so incredible.
And it was a year, because of WrestleMania 4, when Savage was going against DiBiase in the main event, Andre was out there and Hogan was out there.
Yeah.
And Hogan chases him off with the chair, and it's the rub that
correct
Hogan was given on, or not Andre, Savage. But so right there, like, you could tell they're friends. He does the pose with him to show, like, this is your new guy.
Yeah.
And then they form the Mega Powers, which is great TV.
Oh, it was great.
When they're doing the
the
handshake and everything.
That's how Barone and I shake hands, by the way.
Slow. But yeah, it's a year-long thing. And Pritchard talks about it great, where he shows all the little things where, like, Hogan accidentally touches Liz's ass when he's up there.
Yes.
You see Savage looking every time, like, if Hogan would pick Liz up, Savage would give this, like, that's my girl look, but be like, it's okay. The little subtleties you don't notice, but now looking back, I'm like, dude, that was great storytelling.
Like, the fact that you look at the video now of the light touch on the behind of Liz, and you're like, it's just an accident. But then the fact when you rewatch it, and then you hear, Bruce tell the story of, that was just the way it was set up, a light graze. You're like, oh my God. Like, they planned a light graze to build an entire Mega Powers.
To start, like, that little nuance started this whole thing that led towards a massive WrestleMania main event.
It's like what Jericho has always said, and I heard Michael say this too about Vince, where he'll explain things to you in the ring, like how this little thing's gonna go down, and then, like, he'll see a Coke can at the corner of the ring and be like, well, what if we move this Coke can over here and did this? So I can see Vince saying, well, what if, like, Hulk, we just have the camera behind you guys because, we want to show you lifting up Liz, just, like, really quickly accidentally just, touch her ass and then just move. No one will ever in the world think anything of it until Macho brings it up to you. And then everyone's like, oh my God, he grabbed her ass. But, like, that little thing, it's like, here, let's take this little pen here. We'll move it to the left a little bit and it'll be great. It's like that little nuance.
Then you realize, you're like, holy shit, he's right.
Yeah. Like, he had lust in his eyes.
If you want to see a cocaine-fueled promo, like Tony Montana cocaine level.
Oh, it was so incredible.
Dude, where Savage is talking about how much he hates Hulk Hogan, it's just him. And he's like, it looks like his head's about to explode.
It really does.
He's pouring sweat, and he's talking about, there's lust in your screen. It's great. It's such a good promo, but now you watch it, you're like, he blew 9 lines before he got in front of that camera. It's insane how, like, energetic, and apparently that's how he was all the time.
Oh my God.
High strung, on edge, 24/7.
I couldn't hang out with that dude because I'd be dead within 24 hours.
He was so paranoid about everything, but if you get a chance to look that up, it's great stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Savage worked his ass off here. He worked at such a fast pace. He made everything click. Hogan did a phenomenal job of selling, making Savage look incredible. And I don't think he even did one of his back rakes, which was great. So that was nice to see. It was a good thing that Hogan wasn't on offense very much, because that's when his matches really start to not be great. When you know what to expect from Hogan, but then, like, when he's in the ring with, like, a warrior, he has to be on the offensive more. And then it just I don't want to say exposes him, because look, Hogan can work, but in 1989, his job wasn't to work.
No, it was to get beat up, sell, make a comeback, leg drop, pose. That was it. And it made fucking millions of dollars. So everyone that says he sucked, he was on TV sucking, by today's standards.
Right.
But why are you still watching WWE? Because of Hulk Hogan.
That's absolutely correct.
And a lot of people say, like, oh, it could have been Savage. It could have been. No, it couldn't have. No one would have caught that lightning bolt, that, lightning in a bottle like Hulk Hogan did, got over the way he did, as big as he did.
Right.
Like he was the only one who could do it.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. And Savage was in control for most of this, which is the right way to do it, because he's the worker of the two. It was a big deal, though, when Hogan kicked out of that flying elbow, because at that point, again, guys, like a lot of you that might be listening aren't fans of the last 30 years. In 1989, there was no such thing as false finish on a finish. You did not
kick out of a finisher.
No, you just didn't do it.
I have a buddy who I'm in his group, Mario's, and he's an old school wrestling guy or whatever. And his famous line forever, he'd always be like, remember when finishers used to mean something?
Yeah, it's true.
Like now you see a million, and don't get me wrong, in the right way, false finishes.
It makes sense.
When it's false.
Right.
It looks good. Back then, if you got hit with a finisher, it's done.
That's why it was called the finish.
It was a finisher.
Yeah.
Match was done.
Yep. Like it took years before we saw someone kick out of a leg drop.
Warrior.
That was
he
it.
didn't even kick out of it. He moved.
Right. He moved.
Yeah.
But like God, it took one leg drop to beat Andre.
Yeah.
So it was just unbelievable back then. The show ended with, of course, Hogan posing. So if I had, so we can kind of go over,
there's a spot we missed that we talked about in our last podcast we were going to bring up when the Twin Towers, Akeem and Boss.
Oh my God, yeah.
Wrestled the Rockers. And there's a spot where Shawn Michaels ducks out of a clothesline and turns around, and Akeem takes his fucking
Conrad
ball.
Pounds the shit out of him.
Dude, he fucking murders him. It's one of the, especially back then, you see guys now where they get hit with a clothesline and flip.
Right.
You never saw it back then. Shawn Michaels gets murdered with this clothesline. It's so good, though. And you can see how good of a worker he was. And Marty Jannetty was great, too.
Right.
But yeah, that match was like the David and Goliath. And it was two Davids versus two Goliaths. And the work rate the Rockers had, where everything they did was double clothesline, double drop kick.
Yep.
Double punch, double elbow, double everything. But yeah, it's one of those you come for the clothesline and stay for the match. Michaels gets murdered.
You can actually probably type in Shawn Michaels clothesline in Google and find the GIF of it.
Akeem clothesline Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Go on YouTube and watch him get destroyed.
It's just absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, it's great.
So I have some random thoughts that I wrote down for this pay-per-view. And obviously, whenever you want, Brian, just chime in. To me, I think it was Hogan's best WrestleMania match during the prime of his career. Mm-hmm. So to me, that was the highlight of this entire pay-per-view. Savage did his part to carry the match, as I said before. They did have phenomenal chemistry together.
They did.
I just thought, and one day we're going to do another Hulk Hogan show, just praising Hogan.
Well, we have to finish it. We did his first run. We never did his WCW run.
Well,
or his final WWF run. So.
Right. And that's my fault, guys, by the way.
It's both of us.
We will get to that eventually. And then we will have a Hulk Hogan appreciation show where we kind of, maybe shed light on just how great he really was or is.
And I was talking to Chris about this before we started, how I get not arguments, but
debates
with people online about how Hogan sucks and they don't like him and everything, when in actuality he changed the entire business 2 times.
Yep.
He did it once in 85.
Yep.
When he won the title and brought WWF to this global phenomenon, this juggernaut. And then
96
when he turned heel and joined the NWO, he
changed the business.
He forced Vince to change the way he was thinking and start the Attitude Era.
Yep.
So without Hogan, we don't get Stone Cold. We still get, Austin, Rock, and all that, but we don't get it to the height and magnitude if he doesn't join the NWO and be this massive. If your Mount Rushmore doesn't start with Hogan,
don't talk to me.
I don't want to hear it.
Exactly.
It's you can say what you want about his in-ring work. No, he's not Bret Hart. We get that, but as an overall wrestler, he's one. You know what I mean? He's top 3 ever. He's one of the greatest baby faces and one of the greatest heels of all time. Find me someone that is top 4 at all time on both. You can't do it. Like you have.
That's
Bret
tough.
Hart was great on both, but he's not a top heel all time. Shawn Michaels was great at both, but you never look at Shawn Michaels and be like,
heel. No, you don't.
No. And he was a great heel for what he was.
Yeah.
But it's like Hollywood Hogan was one of the best heels ever. And Hulk Hogan is the best babyface ever.
Would you put maybe Triple H there?
But he's more known as a heel.
You're right.
In my opinion,
you're right.
The greatest heel WWF's ever had. That's just me because I'm a fucking Triple H mark.
No, I agree with you. I've said that before.
He talked about it. He was like, Rock and Austin are going on this tear. They need someone to go after him.
What about Rock?
Rock's a phenomenal. He's up there too. He's one of the best heels. And
that might be it.
It's him and Hogan.
It works.
You can't. There's guys that are great. Like Ric Flair's a phenomenal heel. Was he a babyface? Yeah, but no one really remembers it.
No.
It was later in his career when he was older. But
I'm not comparing this guy to the other two, but Jericho
was great at both. But he was a way better heel than he was.
Eddie Guerrero.
But
I'm just naming guys that were good, not legendary. And you have to also remember, again, we're,
Undertaker. Undertaker had.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Absolutely.
I mean, he came in as a heel.
But none of these guys changed the business.
No,
none of them.
And Hogan, again, as we digress, but it's still related to Hogan. He changed the business in another way that changed forever. He made you root for the heel.
Mm-hmm.
Heels were never rooted for up until NWO.
Yeah, NWO was hated, and then everyone thought they were cool as shit.
Yep.
If you look back at those Nitros, everyone's wearing NWO shirts, which you won't find heel shirts selling like that.
No. Nope. So, yeah, you're right. He changed the business in 2 ways, but then in terms of revolutionizing the business, he made liking a heel popular, which in essence hurt the business because now how are you going to know who your top babyface is when if you're against the heel that they like, they're going to root for him too.
Which is how everything changed too, because it's like, then push Roman. Everyone I wish there was a crowd right now so bad. You could hear the pops he would be getting.
Yep.
Everyone would love what he's doing.
He would be so over.
He'd be out there doing the most heelish shit he's doing, and everyone would fucking love it.
Yep. I agree. It's like, damn, what do you do if they're cheering the balls off of him?
That's why I feel bad for Drew. Like, Drew
I agree.
Has kind of carried the company
through COVID,
through a pandemic.
Yep.
With no crowd, and he's doing great work.
Yeah.
But it's like we've asked, like, how come Drew's not let? Well, you can't gauge the reaction he's getting because there's no reaction.
Right. I agree. Next thing I had on this show for my random thoughts is there were barely any celebrities. I mean, Downey was on there, but Trump ran the building, so I guess you can count that. But I didn't miss them. I didn't miss the celebrity stuff.
No. Which before, I think this is kind of when WWF was catching their stride where they didn't need them. You bring Muhammad Ali in or another big name celebrity, it's the like, oh shit, Ali's going to be there or whoever's going to be there. Let me go see what they're going to do.
Yeah.
But now it's like, dude, Hulk Hogan's going to be, I want to watch Hulk Hogan. I want to watch the Ultimate Warrior. I want to see Hogan and Savage. And, by this time they're 5 years into WrestleManias. They've created, like, these guys are the celebrities.
Yeah. I agree. You're right. My next thing is they didn't really have enough talent on the roster to carry a 4-hour show.
No.
There were far too many short matches and were also really bad at the same time.
The longest thing on the show was the Piper segment.
Yeah, over 20 minutes.
If you look, the longest match was Hogan and Savage.
18 minutes, right?
18 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And the Piper Downey thing went 2 minutes longer than that.
That's unbelievable.
The next longest match is Brutus the fucking Barber and the $1 Million Man went 10 minutes.
And I've watched that match recently, and Brutus was just not good.
Nah.
$1 Million thing.
Over as fuck,
oh
though.
Yeah, I don't care what anyone that certain guy that runs podcasts says about the guy. Bruce is right when he says he might have been the second top baby face, third behind Warrior. Brutus was over, man.
He had the second biggest prop in wrestling next to Damien.
You're right.
When Damien came out, the place popped. When he brought those hedge clippers out or the scissors to cut someone's hair, the place went nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and watch when Brutus music hits, everyone goes crazy.
Yep.
You know, people talked a lot of shit when he went into the Hall of Fame, but like, dude, it's wins and losses don't mean anything. He was over. Go back and watch this stuff. He was, like you said, outside of Hogan and Warrior, he was the most over babyface in this era.
I agree. Singles wrestler, because I do know, and this isn't biased. You guys can go back and you can watch it. The Rockers got massive pops as a tag team specialists. So huge.
Dude, they were the boy band.
I know they were.
They were.
I know.
They were these young, two good-looking dudes that girls loved.
Yep.
And when they got in the ring, it was high-paced. Everything was great.
Yeah.
You know, Bret Hart was over. Demolition was over.
They were.
As babyface.
Man, what tag teams they had. Look, like just staring at the screen now. Again, we guys are watching Saturday. And now here's the Legion of Doom. So in one ring, four of the greatest tag teams of all time.
Yep. So we got Monday night, Saturday night's main event on in the background. In the ring, we just saw the Rockers and Demolition have a match. The Hart Foundation comes out, and now Legion of Doom comes out. This
one ring
in '89.
Yeah,
8 guys. They're all Hall of Famers.
8 Hall of Famers.
All of them. Demolition should go in, but Axe and Vince hate each other. But
it's correct.
They 100% deserve to be in. They were the most over tag team, back then. And I think the Rockers should go in.
I agree. I don't know if Marty will ever be allowed anywhere in a public. That's true. Times. That's a good point. It's crazy looking at that screen too. It was let's see, Hawk and Animal are dead. Crush is dead. Yeah. Jim Neidhart's dead. Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
That's crazy.
That's right sad. Here. Yeah.
These guys.
Yep. Gone. Oh my gosh. Another thing, I don't know when the last time you watched WrestleMania 5. I mean, as an adult, but I thought the crowd was not good.
I'll watch it tomorrow.
I'll watch
it in the morning tomorrow.
WrestleMania 4 obviously was in the same venue. They made a lot more noise, and I watched both of them. Perhaps there were more adults here that maybe didn't care to make as much noise as a younger crowd would have. But to me, I felt like the only time the crowd really was up was Mega Powers, was the main event.
And if you look at the matches, there's a lot of outside of Rude and Warrior, there's not a whole lot of quote unquote star power.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's Jake and Andre with Big John Studd as a special guest referee. That was great. Was the match good? No, because Andre really couldn't work, but it was all to get Damien in the ring.
Yeah. I agree.
And how great was Andre? Selling the snake. Dude, he had a heart attack every time he went. I've never seen a dude that big move that quick. When that snake came out of the bag, he was fucking gone.
Oh, I agree. Obviously my top performers of this evening was Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, Rick Rude. This was also, for those of you who don't know, was Mr. Perfect's debut, WrestleMania debut, versus a Blue Blazer. I wish that match would have gotten more time.
Yeah, because granted it was to get Perfect over.
Yeah.
But Blue Blazers, Owen Hart, they can go. Both of those guys can go. That's a 15-minute match all day, technical wise. But it was Blue Blazer was kind of a jobber, and they were just trying to make Perfect look strong, which they did because he was that good.
Yeah. So for me, I look at this show and I always feel like I've had fond memories of the show, but really the only thing that to me really showcases this is the main event.
Yeah.
Other than that, is it fair to say that this was not a good Mania?
Mediocre. Yeah. It was, and the only reason I hold this Mania in such high regards is childhood. It's nostalgic to me.
Yeah. But it's also one of the best main events ever.
Yeah, it's one of the best main events ever. But this is my first memories of wrestling were the Mega Power leading up to the Mega Powers exploding. So I love everything from '89.
Yeah.
Because that's the shit I remember as a kid. Like I said, I remember with my dad, him let me rip his shirts off. He would cut his shirt and I'd rip it off like I was Hulk Hogan. and he would interview me and say like, "Who are you going to beat up next?" And I would say Roddy Piper. I don't remember the Hogan Piper feud, but I can remember that with my dad.
That's awesome.
So those are like my earliest memories. But this is like my earliest like watching TV.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the Saturday main event that was just on with the Twin Towers, and when the Mega Powers actually did split up.
Yeah, for sure.
But I remember the Mega Powers and the Mega Bucks with DB. You want to see a worker? DiBiase.
Oh.
DiBiase in that match works his ass off. And then after this, when it's Brutus and Hogan against Zeus and Savage, Savage works his ass off.
Yeah, he does.
And then later on, when you get Hogan and Warrior against Adnan, Mustafa, and Slaughter, Slaughter works his ass off. So you get Hogan paired with somebody against a team of like guys who can't work and one stud. And go watch Savage, DiBiase, and Slaughter from those matches. Got their fucking working boots on.
Yeah, they did for sure.
But yeah, overall, the Mania, if I look past the nostalgic standpoint of it, it's all right.
Yeah,
is what it is.
I would probably. So out of a 10, I'd give this show probably a 5, and that's strictly because of the main event. The main event is incredible. I still often watch this main event, and I love watching the promos that build up to it. I do put this as probably one of the top 3 or 4 worst Manias.
Yes.
I think this one, 9, is the worst shit show ever. WrestleMania 2 was awful.
So when you look back at like what's the worst, I always give the first couple ones a pass. Like you look at the Rumbles, the first Rumble's terrible.
Really bad.
They didn't know what they were doing. The second one's not that great.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to give them a little bit of stride. Like the first WrestleMania is not that good. The second one's terrible because it's in 3 different cities.
Yep.
You know, the third one,
it's Andre, and then it's Andre Hulk.
It's Andre Hulk, and that's basically it.
Yeah.
You know, the fourth one was kind of good. It had a lot of great matches, but that's when they start catching their stride. And
for sure.
5's not a great WrestleMania.
Yeah, but that, like you said, that main event can carry you for a whole year.
Yeah.
And it did. So, and then that following year, WrestleMania 6, also that main event carried you for a whole year.
For a year.
So you're going to have, look, when you're running this pay-per-view every single year, you're going to have things that just aren't that great.
Yeah, stuff doesn't click.
Right.
We got Dino Bravo versus Ronnie Garvin. 3 minutes.
Exactly.
And Garvin was a stud in the NWA, I think. He was in NWA, whatever. I don't know these guys.
Right.
So, I see this little dude against the monster that's Dino Bravo, and I'm like, how can I get excited for that guy? You know what I mean?
All right.
The Red Rooster versus Bobby Heenan lasted 30 seconds, but the story leading up to that was good.
Yes.
I remember all that stuff with the Brooklyn Brawler.
Yes.
That story was good. The match was terrible. You got Bad News Brown versus Jim Duggan. Who cares? Demolition versus the Power Pain and Mr. Fuji had a great story. The Bushwhackers and the Rougeos. There's a lot of grab a drink. It's
exactly.
Hercules and Haku.
14 matches.
Don't care. Yeah.
And then you mix into that Piper's Pit.
20-minute Piper's Pit.
Oh, it's a long night of wrestling.
A lot of the matches are 6, 8, 9, 7, 3. They're not that long.
No, they're not. That's a good point. But overall, like we said, not the best pay-per-view, but it's one of the greatest main events in the history of pro wrestling. It's one that will be in the annals of time. It's almost one of those, it's an evergreen program that will live on forever if you're a pro wrestling fan. So it was just awesome going back and being able to reminisce on WrestleMania 5. The Mega Powers explode. So that was a lot of fun. So the next time you guys hear us, you will hear WrestleMania 17. Then beyond that, we'll talk about WrestleMania 19, 25, and 35. So we're going to, get those out to you guys as in the next, month or so. They're all going to be coming out to you. We hope you guys enjoyed this one. We hope you appreciated and loved Royal Rumble 2015. Just thank you guys so much. Head over to youtube.com/nerdenthusiast. Subscribe.
Head over to Patreon. We covered Katie Vick.
Yep.
And that fucking god-awful abortion that happened on live TV.
That's funny.
But that's Patreon exclusive. So.
Right. So check that out. Sign up for some tiers and you guys will get more exclusive content. I've already talked about how we can do Zoom calls and we can talk wrestling with you guys if you guys, help us out and contribute to Nerd Enthusiasts. We would love to talk to some guys or ladies, whoever you guys want to talk wrestling. We're always up for it. Again, we're all nerd enthusiasts. We're dorks when it comes to pro wrestling. So we would love to talk it with anybody. But head over to, like we said, patreon.com/nerd enthusiasts. Over on YouTube, you can go to Nerd Enthusiasts, subscribe, like, listen to all the other shows that we offer. Definitely go to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, like, follow, do everything you guys can, and share the pages to keep growing this thing. We're trying to do everything we can.
All the support.
Absolutely. Like I talked about a couple shows ago, we've gone, our followers are just going through the roof on like a weekly basis. So we're really appreciative of that. This has been the Nerd Enthusiast Wrestling Podcast, and we will catch you guys down the road. Have a good rest of your week and weekend. That's Kyle Barone. I'm Christy Francesco, and we'll see you guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.